Okay, and welcome back to another edition of Vaughan in Vivo, the program that's designed to help you with your English, together with the other programs on Aprender Inglés TV. Yes, now if you're a regular viewer, okay, which means telespectador, continuado, watching us every day, habitual. If you're a regular viewer, then I think probably your English is starting to get a little better. You're starting to understand me a little better. You're starting to understand Kathleen on my living room, maybe a little better. You're starting to understand Alberto, avanzado alto, on Rumbo al Inglés, a little better. And you're starting to understand Mike, avanzado bajo, a little better. And I hope, y si no lo entiendo, that you're starting to understand Richard Brown a little better. He speaks so fast, okay? And you're hearing many different accents too, okay? So I think it's very good for you. And if you continue watching this program as much as possible, every day, or 3 days a week, 5 days a week, 2 days a week, but on a regular basis, you will notice the improvement, and you will slowly get better and better and better, even if you don't study, because many of the words and expressions we know, you recognize in writing, but you don't recognize hearing them, and after 5 months, yes, you start to recognize things. So, entramos en faena aquí. Shall we start? Let's start. Okay, Pedro, how are you today?
Fine, thank you.
Okay, and Annette, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Okay, Annette, ask me if I have ever been to Kansas.
Have you ever been to Kansas?
Yes, I have, many times. Ask me what the capital of Kansas is.
What's the capital of Kansas?
The capital of Kansas is Topeka. 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 Ask me if I have ever been to Topeka.
Have you ever been to Topeka?
Just once, passing through. All right, but I've never stopped. Ask me how to spell Topeka.
How do you spell Topeka?
Okay, Topeka. It's a strange name, Topeka. Ask me if it's an Indian name.
Is it an Indian name?
Yes, it is. Ask me what the population of Topeka is.
What's the population of Topeka?
Probably about 100,000. It's not so big. Ask me if I know anybody from Topeka.
Do you know anybody from Topeka?
I know 2 people. Well, I know 3 people. I know a married couple that has 10 children. Yeah. And they know Kathleen. Oh. Okay. On my living room. She's from Topeka. All right. Ask me if she is proud of Topeka.
Is Kathleen proud of Topeka?
I'm not sure. Because she left Topeka to go to San Francisco. But I like Kansas. Okay. Ask me if I have ever lived in Kansas.
Have you ever lived in Kansas?
No, I haven't. Ask me if I have passed through Kansas many times.
Have you ever passed through?
No, ever, no.
Have you passed through Topeka?
No, Kansas.
Kansas. Have you passed through Kansas many times?
Yes, I have. You see, Kansas is a state in the center of the United States. And if you're driving to other places, you often pass through, but you don't stop. All right? And ask me what the biggest city is in Kansas.
What's the biggest city in Kansas?
The biggest city in Kansas is Wichita. Wichita. Have you ever heard of Wichita?
Yes, I have.
Really?
Yes.
Ask Annette if she has ever heard of Wichita.
Have you ever heard of Wichita?
No, I haven't.
Ask me if Wichita is an Indian name too.
Is it an Indian name too?
Yes, it is. It's an
How do
Indian
you
name.
write it?
How do you
How
spell
do you
it?
spell it?
You can write it with a pen.
Yes, how do you spell it?
Wichita. Wichita.
No.
Wichita. You never heard of Wichita?
No.
Ask you what the population of Wichita is.
What's the population of Wichita?
Wichita.
Wichita.
It's about 400,000, maybe like Valladolid. Now, ask me what Kansas is famous for.
What's Kansas famous for?
It's famous for many things. It's famous for the tornadoes. Ask me if there are tornadoes in Kansas every year.
Are there tornadoes in Kansas every year?
Yes, there are. Yes, ask me if I have ever seen a tornado.
Have you ever seen a tornado?
Yes, I have. Ask me how many tornadoes I've seen.
How many tornadoes have you seen?
Just one. Ask me if it was dangerous.
Was it dangerous?
No, it wasn't. Ask me why.
Why wasn't it dangerous?
Because it was in the sky. It wasn't on the ground. It was passing over the city where I lived. And ask me if Kansas suffers tornadoes every year.
Does Kansas suffer tornadoes every year?
Probably. But most tornadoes don't create any human suffering. Ask me how many tornadoes there are in the United States every year.
How many tornadoes are there in the United States every year?
Probably 5,000. Ask me how many tornadoes cause serious damage.
How many tornadoes cause serious damage?
Perhaps 30, 40, I don't know. Ask me how many tornadoes cause human suffering.
How many tornadoes cause human suffering?
Every year, perhaps 10 or 15 only. Ask me how many people die every year because of tornadoes.
How many people die every year because of tornadoes?
Probably 20. As an average. In a bad year, 500, but probably 20 or 30 people die every year of tornadoes. Ask me how many people die on the highways every year.
How many people die on the highways every year?
Probably 30,000. So
Yes.
a car is much more dangerous than a tornado, okay? And ask me if I would like to live in Kansas.
Would you like to live in Kansas?
I wouldn't mind. The people are very, very nice. Now tell Pedro to ask me what the most important source of income is in Kansas.
Ask him what the most important income...
Source. Fuente de ingresos. Source of income.
Ask him what the most important source of income Kansas
Is in Kansas.
is in Kansas.
What's the most important source of income in Kansas?
Wheat. All right. Ask me if Kansas is the #1 state in the United States in wheat.
Is Kansas the number one state in wheat in the United States?
Yes, it is. Yeah. Yeah, Kansas grows more wheat than any state in the United States. Ask Annette how to say wheat in Spanish.
How do you say wheat in Spanish?
Trigo.
All right, good. Ask her if there's a lot of wheat in Argentina.
Are there a lot of wheat in Argentina?
No.
Is there a lot of wheat in Argentina?
Yes, there is.
Ask her if the wheat is grown on the pampas.
Is the wheat grown in the Pampas?
Not direct. Yes, I think so.
Okay. And ask her if wheat is the most important crop in Argentina.
Is wheat the most important crop in Argentina?
It was. Now I think
It used to be.
it used to be.
Ask her what the most important crop is now.
What's the most important crop now?
I think soja.
Soybeans. Soya.
Soy.
Soya is británico. Soya.
Soya.
Soybeans.
Soybeans.
All right. Soybeans. Soy, como yo soy. Soy y luego judías. Beans. Soybeans is the American and Canadian word. Soya, okay, is the British, Irish word. Okay.
I tell you, I really don't know.
Okay, good. Well, ask me what the most important crop is in the United States.
What's the most important crop is in the United States?
Porque es dos veces.
What's the most important crop in the United States?
Probably the most important crop is probably corn. All right, corn, maíz. Now ask me what state is the most important for corn.
What's the most important state for corn?
Iowa is the most important state for corn. Ask me how much of the corn, American corn, is produced in Iowa.
How much of the American corn is produced in Iowa?
Probably about 30% is produced in Iowa. Ask me what other states are important for corn.
What other states are important for corn?
Especially Illinois and Nebraska. Ask me if I have ever been in those states.
Have you ever been on those? Have you ever been in those states?
Yes, I have. Ask me if I have been there during the corn season.
Have you been there during the corn season?
Yes, I have. Ask me if it's impressive.
Is it impressive?
Yes, it is. Ask me why.
Why is it impressive?
Because the corn is very high, and it's everywhere. And so when you drive your car down the road, it's a wall of corn for 2,000 kilometers. From the central Indiana, all of Illinois, Iowa, and practically all of Nebraska. So it's from here to Paris, 1,500 kilometers. 1,500 kilometers of murallas de maíz, walls of corn, and soybeans, okay? which changes the landscape. And ask me if I like corn.
And do you like corn?
Yes, I do. Ask me what the most important crop is in Sevilla.
What's the most important crop in Sevilla?
In Seville, the most important crop, I think, is cotton and wheat. Okay. Ask me what the most important crop is in Texas.
What's the most important crop in Texas?
Cotton is the most important crop in Texas. Texas is the #1 producer of cotton in the United States. Do you understand?
Yes.
Ask me what the most important crop is in California.
What's the most important crop in California?
Wine, grapes, all right? The vineyards are the most important, Falcon Crest, etc. Okay? Ask me what the most important crop is in New York.
What's the most important crop in New York?
New York State, apples is the most important crop. There are a lot of apples in New York. Have you ever been to New York State?
Yes, I have.
Ask him how many times he has been to the United States.
How many times have you been to the United States?
Once.
Ask him when he went.
When did you go?
I went last summer.
Ask him if he took his family.
Did you take your family?
Yes, I did.
Ask him if it was expensive.
Was it expensive?
I'm afraid, yes.
I'm afraid so. Me temo que sí. It was expensive. Ask him how long they were there.
How long were you there?
We stayed...
No, we were there for...
we were there for 18 days.
Good, repeat.
We were there for 18 days.
Okay. And ask him if they visited the entire country.
Did you visit the entire country?
We visited several states.
Ask him how many states they visited.
How many states did you visit?
4.
4. Ask him if they flew to New York.
Did you fly to New York?
Yes, we did.
Ask him if they flew to Kennedy Airport or to Newark.
Did you fly to Kennedy Airport or New York?
Newark.
Newark.
We flown to... We flew...
No.
We flew.
Okay.
Sorry. We flew to JFK.
Kennedy Airport. Okay, ask him if they rented a car. Ask him if they rented a car.
Did you rent a car?
Yes, we did.
Ask him what kind of car they rented.
What kind of car did you rent?
It was a Hyundai.
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 All right, good. And ask him if it had an automatic transmission.
Did it have an automatic transmission?
Yes, it has.
Yes, repeat the question.
Did it had an
¿Cómo?
Did it have an automatic
Transmission.
transmission?
Una vez más, estaba bien ahora.
Did it had an
¿Cómo? No me cambies las cosas.
Did it have?
No existe did it had.
Yes.
Did it have? Did it have? Does it have?
Yeah.
Do you have? Do you have? Will you have? Have you had? Solo has tenido cuando es tenido. El participio es cuando had va después. Do you have? Did it have? Ask him if it had an automatic transmission. Did?
Did it have an
¿Por qué?
automatic transmission?
Okay, ¿por qué me
I don't know.
esos deslices
I'm nervous.
mentales? Did it have? Did it had no existe.
Did it have an automatic transmission?
Yes, it did.
Good. Now, ask Pedro if he had ever driven, ask him if he had ever driven an automatic transmission before.
Had you ever driven an automatic transmission before?
¿Entiendes el porqué? ¿Habías alguna vez antes? Es pluscuamperfecto.
Yes.
El año pasado fue a Nueva York. Alquiló un coche con transmisión automática. Ahora vamos a remontar de ese momento del pasado a un segundo pasado. Y eso es lo que se llama en castellano el pluscuamperfecto y en inglés past perfect, pasado perfecto. So hay que ir una etapa atrás. Had you, not have you.
Yeah.
Si quieres saber si hasta ahora en su vida ha conducido alguna vez, have you ever,
Yes.
eso es neutro, have you ever driven an automatic transmission? Pero partiendo de ese momento el verano pasado, had you.
Had you.
Ask him if he had ever driven an automatic transmission before.
Had you ever driven an automatic transmission before?
No, I hadn't.
Ask him if it was difficult. Ask him if he had trouble. If he had trouble adapting to the transmission.
Had you traveled?
Did you have?
Did you have trouble to adapt?
No.
Adapting.
Mira, bring me the camera. Okay. Look, la expresión me costó trabajo, me cuesta trabajo preparar esta clase, me costó trabajo convencerles de poner agua en la mesa, me costó mucho trabajo encontrar una varita mágica y me costó trabajo convencer a Annette para que viniera aquí, me costó trabajo, o que me cuesta trabajo encontrar gente para mi programa, me cuesta trabajo centrar la atención en esto. Esta expresión tan usada en castellano, de costarle trabajo a uno, más el infinitivo. Yo sé que a vosotros os cuesta trabajo aprender bien inglés. En inglés hay una sola forma en que lo decimos y es tan corriente en inglés como la expresión costar trabajo a uno en español. Y es el verbo to have, simplemente to have, más el verbo, más la palabra trouble, escrito trouble, trouble, más el gerundio, to have trouble. I have trouble getting water for this class. I had en el pasado, me costó trabajo encontrar esta varita mágica. I had trouble finding this magic wand. It took me 3 months to find it, and it's very expensive. I had trouble finding it. I had trouble convincing gerundio, Annette to come here. Okay, now. He had never driven an automatic transmission before. His family flew to JFK, or Kennedy Airport, and he rented a car. He rented a Hyundai. I think it's a Korean car. Now, it was an automatic transmission, and he had never driven an automatic transmission before. Now, ask him if he had trouble adapting to the transmission.
Did you have trouble adapting the new to the new transmission?
Yes, I did.
Ask him how long it took him to feel comfortable.
How long did it take you to feel comfortable?
4 or 5 days.
Repeat.
It took me 4 or 5 days.
Okay, good. Ask him if he rented the car at the airport.
Did you rent the car at the airport?
No, I didn't.
Ask him how many days later he rented the car.
How many days later did you rent the car?
I rented the car 4 days later.
Ask if you rented the car in the center of Manhattan.
Did you rent the car in the center of Manhattan?
Yes, I did.
All right. And ask if he returned the car to the airport.
Did you return the car to the airport?
No, I didn't.
Ask him if you returned the car to the same place he rented it.
Did you return the car to the same place you rented it?
Yes, I did.
All right. Now ask him how many days he stayed in Manhattan.
How many days did you stay in Manhattan?
In the beginning, 4 days, and when we came back, 3 days.
Okay, so how many days in all did he spend in Manhattan?
17 days.
No, 7.
7 days.
He stayed. Okay, ask him if he was impressed by Manhattan.
Were you impressed by Manhattan?
I felt overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. Positively or negatively?
In the beginning, negatively.
And then later you began to
Yes.
Get a feeling for the city.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Ask if he stayed in a nice hotel.
Did you stay in a nice hotel?
Not bad.
Ask if he stayed in the same hotel the second time.
Did you stay in the same hotel
The second time?
the second time?
Yes, we did.
Yes, we did. Ask him if it was a high-rise building.
Was it a high-rise building?
I think it was 16 floors.
16 floors. Mm-hmm. Okay, ask him if they had a nice room.
Did you have a nice room?
The second one was better than the first.
All right. Ask him if they walked a lot around Manhattan.
Did you walk a lot around Manhattan?
Yes, we did.
Ask him if he got tired of walking so much.
Did you get tired of walking so much?
No, we didn't.
No, you didn't. Ask him if they visited the Statue of Liberty.
Did you visit the Statue of Liberty?
Of course we did.
All right. And ask him if they crossed to Brooklyn or Queens.
Did you cross to Brooklyn or Queens?
No, we crossed to Staten Island.
To Staten Island on the ferry.
Yes.
Okay, and you can see the.
Uh-huh.
Ask him if he went to Ellis Island.
Did you go to
Ellis
Island?
Yes, we did.
All right. Do you know what Ellis Island is?
No. I don't.
Ask him what Ellis Island is.
What's Ellis Island?
Ellis Island was where the immigrants were taken to overcome a lot of physical and mental
Tests.
Ah.
Not to overcome, no.
No.
To do.
To do.
Overcome es superar un obstáculo. Algo, to overcome is sobreponerse a un problema que puedes tener. For example, if you have For example, if you become paralyzed in your arm and you can't move your arm, you work hard, physical therapy for 2 years to overcome the handicap. Do you understand?
Yes.
That's superar sobreponiéndose algo. Okay? Now, Ellis Island was an island very near the island to the Statue of Liberty in New York Harbor. And that was the island where the ships stopped with the immigrants 100 years ago. And all of the immigrants passed through inspection and tests to make sure they were physically and mentally healthy, or fit, F-E-T. Physically fit and mentally fit to become future citizens, perhaps, of the United States. Okay? First, residents, and then second, citizens of the United States. Everybody, over a period of about 30 or 40 years, passed through Ellis Island. And there's one interesting story. There's one story, I don't know if they told you the story in Ellis Island, in which a man, a Bulgarian man, Bulgaro, and the immigration official asked him questions. And he asked him questions. Are you in good health? And he said, yes. Are you from Bulgaria? Yes. Are you from Romania? No. And he was moving his head just the opposite. And the immigration official turned to the translator and says, excuse me, I don't understand, but this man is answering correctly, but he's nodding when he negates, and he's shaking his head when he says yes. And the translator didn't know why, and they talked. And it turns out that there is an area of Bulgaria where the people move their head in the opposite directions of all the rest of the people. Okay? So, did you know this story?
Yes.
Ask me if I have ever visited Ellis Island.
Have you ever visited Ellis Island?
No, I haven't. I've seen it. Ask me if I've ever visited the Statue of Liberty.
Have you ever visited the Statue of Liberty?
Statue.
The Statue of Liberty?
No, I haven't. Liberty con
Liberty.
No, I haven't. No, I haven't. But I've seen it on the ferry, of course. And so he spent 7 days in all in New York, in Manhattan, I believe. 4 days at the beginning and 3 days at the end. And ask him what other states he visited.
What other states?
Other?
What other states did you visit?
Okay. Other son ubres de vaca. Other.
Other.
What other state? Now, what udder? What udders did you use to milk the cow? Now, what?
Those.
¿Qué otros ubres has usado? What other udders? Okay. Ask him what other states he visited.
What other states did you visit?
New York, Vermont, Massachusetts, and we passed through Connecticut.
Connecticut. La C in connect. La C is muda. Connecticut.
Connecticut.
All right. And ask him if you prefer New York City to the countryside.
Do you prefer?
Did you?
Prefer New York City to the countryside?
I preferred the countryside.
Ask him if he visited West Point.
Did you visit West Point?
No, we didn't.
Ask if he saw the Hudson River outside of New York.
Did you see the Hudson River outside New York?
Yes.
We did.
Yes, we did.
Ask him if it's a wide river.
It's a wide river.
Is it?
Is it a wide river?
Yes, it is.
All right. Ask him if it was impressive.
Was it impressive?
Very impressive.
Yes. Ask me if I have seen that river.
Have you seen that river?
Yes, I have. It's the most impressive river I have seen in my life. Now, I have seen the Mississippi and the Nile, okay? And, of course, the Rhine and the rivers in Europe.
They are very little.
No, the Rhine is impressive,
Well,
I haven't seen the Amazon or the Rio de la Plata or the
You
Paraná.
have to see in the Paraná.
Okay.
That's a river.
But the Hudson is incredible. Do you remember the Hudson?
Yes.
As you go outside, you drive north, up the Hudson River, and say, wow, it's wide, powerful river. We have to take a short break. Okay, we'll be right back, okay, in 5 minutes' time. So, don't go away.